Hello, everyone. Hope you guys are doing well and can hear me as well. Um, I am a bit sick, so I apologize in advance for for my voice here, and I'm super grateful also to Catherine from Curia Lab to help me and host the part of the call where we'll be focusing on the delegate rewards. Um, So welcome everyone, and yeah, thanks again for joining the community call number 12 here. Um, I guess we can start by looking at call 11, which was kind of about the architecture. It was mainly around the DAO-Managed Vault, the risk layering, the governance caps there. Um, And today is going to be more about the integration. What's active, what's sequencing, what governance actually looks like, and how delegate incentives needs to evolve alongside it. Um, this these structures, of course, only work if we shape them deliberately and collectively, and this is very much a lazy summer DAO process here. So again, on the agenda, we'll move through a short recap of the call 11. We'll look at active RFCs and SIPs, what's next in governance sequencing, and then a working session led by Curia on Delegate Rewards Framework V2. The last part is interactive, so I'm really hoping that more of you guys will join on this activity here. So I mean, the Code 11 really clarified something foundational here, I believe. We now have, like 2 layers of capital governance. There are the block analytica risk created vaults, which are more conservative. They're focused on capital preservation and they have quite strict caps. And we have DAO risk created vaults. These are governance directed, opt-in, higher volatility. The key design principle here was really not to stretch Block Analytica's conservative mandate. I think it's important that we keep those Block Analytica created vaults as conservative as Block Analytica wishes to do so as well. We are creating here a parallel structure where governance conviction can really express itself. And I believe that separation protects credibility on both sides. Regarding the Guardian authority, we clarified on the last call that the Guardians can reduce caps to 0. They cannot increase caps and they cannot add markets either. Really, the point of Guardians is more of a reactive and sort of like a emergency task force if something needs to be executed in order to protect the user's funds, then the Guardians can step in and with their limited powers, they can execute their mandate. I believe that this will preserve the decentralization of expansion authority as well here. The second half of the call 11, we moved into governance incentives. We identified real structural tensions there, the treasury, sustainability, the uneven governance workload, quorum, fragility, participation versus quality. Also, we have touched upon the fact that currently a small number of large delegates can determine the quorum. So if they would be absent, the governance can de facto slows. And this could be potentially fact as a structural fragility here. And I think that will also lead us into today's workshop. What's currently in discussion? Here, I really don't want to read proposals line by line, but I want to frame some of the governance load they represent. So we have a SIP 6.1 and a 6.2. As you guys could see, we have introduced new numbers to our SIP structure. So there are SIP 6 and SIP 7. This SIP 6.1 and 6.2, they are adding DAO risk, they're focused on the DAO risk managed USDC and ETH vault. And this is the sort of the operationalization of the architecture that we just discussed before. The sequencing here is quite critical here, right? So we had the framework created by Block Analytica funded and prepared, the risk parameters defined, the contracts deployed, the guardians added, and initial markets proposed. So I believe the next step upon execution of from the governance side will be that the deposits will open. Very exciting. Thanks everyone, of course, who has been contributing to this process. So it's a huge work there. We have a SIP 5.20. This is a special governance proposal and is focused on a seal whitehead safe harbor. So basically, less of a flashy but structurally quite significant proposal here. Here the proposal is around adopting a safe harbor agreement, which is essentially allowing whitehead hackers, like sort of legally mandating them to intercept any exploit that could be happening against the lazy summer protocol. So they will be mandated to intercept that and try to recover funds from this potential exploit. So this I really see as like sort of designing long-term institutional credibility as well as in reinforcing the user's trust in the protocol. We have a SIP 5.21, which is focused on removing the reward route from raise rewards. This is treasury hygiene, and I'm very happy. Thank you, Chris, for focusing on the treasury hygiene there. It's basically recouping unclaimed summer, which can strengthen, of course, the runway of the DAO as well. I guess every summer recoup affects compensation sustainability as well. So we can consider this as a directly linked to today's workshop. We have SIP 2.53. This is a Morpho V2 redeploy with updated arcs. This is a maintenance governance proposal. It's quite necessary, but it's not very much narrative shaping here. Last but not least, we have another post here. One is an RFC proposed by Helatrix, looking to or proposing to reduce Euro-C Vault protocol fees. And this is, I guess, mainly around the competitive pressure. Right now, the Vault is taking a fee of 1%, and the ask there is to reduce it either to 0.5 to 0.3, or really just proposing a change in the fee structure there. So if you are a delegate or a community member, please go and express your thoughts in that thread. We also just very recently, I believe today, had a post created under Aerodrome meta governance transparency thread, and this is super cool as always to see. There is the meta governance multisig that is operated by 5 signers, and every time there are some moves, as in sort of yesterday they were purchasing more V-Arrow tokens and as well casting votes on the summer USDC pool in this epoch of Aerodrome incentives. So for anybody that's interested to read on that, please head to the forum and look for Aerodrome meta governance transparency report. Let me see here. Zooming out, we now have a risk architecture, we have a product segmentation, we have multiple active SIPs. I guess from some angle, we can say that we are increasing vault complexity as well. We are expanding the cap logic and treasury allocation decisions. So governance complexity is rising as well. The core question seems to be now, can the participation quality rise proportionally? I guess it's really important, since if complexity is increasing, we have to increase engagement as well, to not accumulate risk somewhat invisibly. Maybe now, unless there are any questions, I would move into the structural part. Here, led by Curia, the Delegate Rewards Framework V2 workshop. To frame this clearly, the delegate rewards are not about compensation for attendance. They are really about sustaining governance quality. They're about improving decentralization, aligning long-term incentives, avoiding quorum fragility, maintaining treasury sustainability. And Curia has been working on the V2 iteration. And I would like to hand it over to you, Catherine. And of course, I'm going to be here to help you facilitate.
Okay, thank you for that, Jency. So first, thanks everyone for joining. Special shout out to Jency, Brian, and Caesar for taking the time to actually write on the Miro board. That way, we don't have to start from scratch. Okay, so I'll show everyone the board. Is the Miro board seen? Hello.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah, we can see it. Of course, if you can zoom in a little bit, and I have posted the link to the chat as well, so anybody can join in.
Okay. So first, based on the answers, we have a. I'm going to summarize what we have built a consensus on. So first, we have a strong. We agree that this is a part-time. That this is a part-time or a voluntary work. That the budget should be a modest stipend and not a full salary, and that the goal. And that the goal is to be able to. Here, I'm sorry. Your KPIs. And that the goal should be to be able to hit quorum and to drive TVL. Okay, so on the forum, I posted 3 questions. So the 3 questions are: what specific actions constitute high value work? Um, how should the compensation mix be structured without draining stables? And how do we measure workload to calculate the base pay? And these 3 questions will comprise most of our discussion today. So starting off with what defines high value work? So in defining high value contributions across chains, it's uh, what what stands out the most is communication. So for on-chain, oh yeah, for is the communication style. So for on-chain value, consistent voting and actively driving TVL to the Summer Pi protocol. And for off-chain, we have vetting and proposing new yield sources, um, actively educating target demographics. Yeah, yeah, and vetting and proposing new yield sources to the protocol, as well as succinctness. which basically means being concise or being precise. Um, so for the consensus, high value work is defined as a mix of on-chain results and off-chain expertise, where the communication style matters heavily, delivering on the conciseness. So the question for this is, um, dri- driving TVL and education is driving TVL and educating the market are incredibly valuable. But how can delegates prove and report these off-chain activities without creating massive administrative burden to the DAO? Mm. Considering the answer, considering that, does anyone have any ideas on uh, how we can move on with this? Or actually, firstly, do we all agree that high value work is that at the definition of high value work?
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I would say so. I guess it's really important to look at both on chain and off chain. I really like that you proposed that.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, driving TVL to the protocol is important. At the same time, I guess this is at the end of the day coming through from the proposals and what individual delegates are focused on, right? Like maybe this is something to consider here that not everybody is, let's say, focused on the business side, or specifically focused on like searching for new yield opportunities. Maybe they have an expertise in something different than that, and that's fine as well, and that's a valid contribution to the DAO. So I think it depends on who are the individual delegates and what are their um, expertises, I guess.
Yes. Um, well, thank you for that, Jensei. Now that we have an understanding of what high value work is, maybe we can start by defining what we define as standard. What could be the baseline for our delegates to be considered as standard? So basically, tying this up with question number 4, in creating a dynamic base pay, how considering that we understand what high value work is, um, what do you think should the standard base pay look like? Well, according to Jensei's answer here, a low contributor is would have a 80 to 90% voting participation with some form engagement, as well as leadership contributions. Uh, standard participation standard would be 90% participation with contributions and threads, and I would be being a proposal author and co-author in the design of major SIPs. I think as a baseline, we we can consider voting be one of the factors. It's just a matter of the percentage. Do we all agree that the baseline for a the baseline for a the baseline for a delegate to receive compensation should be at around 80% at the minimum? Yeah. Okay. So I guess now we have a baseline threshold. So since voting is a baseline, the next given that communication was also one of the things that we established a while ago in constituting high value work, do we also do we also consider posting rationals, yeah, do we also consider posting rationals as something high value, as a standard that we should have for Summer DAO?
I think here it's important to post the rationales, but at the same time, it's like each of these I think has a has a weight, right? And oh yeah, so I guess you're asking if it's a standard.
Mhm.
Hmm. Yeah, I would I personally would say it should be a standard.
Right. I also agree with that. Yeah. Um. Here.
Yeah, Brian, go ahead. I see you have a raised hand.
Yeah, just a quick opinion on rationales. I personally don't see the value in like giving your rationale after you voted, as compared, you know, before like the vote goes up, in the sense that I think it's more valuable to give your feedback on the proposal, the RFC or the SIP, rather than after the fact, because it usually the author doesn't like retroactively go back and look at like individual rationales. So I think that this should be valued in a way that where feedback to the original proposal is more valuable than just like, sort of checking off a box where you give your rationale, like, I voted this way because one, two, three. I feel like it's not valuable to the, author of the proposal.
I see.
That's a good insight.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's good. No worries, no worries. Yeah, I just wanted to add that it's I definitely see your point. Maybe sometimes I personally, when I was casting votes, I would use the field for the rationale to basically post my link to a forum comment. So I guess that basically means that yeah, it's just like some sort of an on-chain proof that I have wrote some sort of feedback somewhere. But I definitely do agree. I think while the proposal is in process, um, having something to say while it's being built, and then yeah, providing your thoughts there is probably of a higher value than after the fact.
I'm sorry. Mhm. Okay, so now we have a stat. Those are good insights, I guess. In terms of posting rationals, it does make sense that posting before would contribute to a delegate's uh a delegate's vote. Yeah. I would say personally I do the same. Sometimes I check out the other delegates on what the rationale might be in case I needed to understand a proposal better and to understand why they voted as such.
Maybe that's also could be considered that, of course, not everything that the delegates are doing is for them, right? Since
Mhm.
they have people that are delegating tokens to them, right? Maybe these people are not 24/7 on the forum, so maybe they just come to the tally, they see, all right, this is the vote. How is my delegate voting? And then they can like sort of simply see maybe in a couple of words, okay, this is the decision, this is why I'm taking the decision. So actually, yeah, I just thought about that part of cursor stone here.
Okay, so I think for a dynamic base pay, we have what we consider as low and standard. As for high, maybe the my question is for the high tier, can the can only the proposal author get this high tier, or are we considering someone who was able to do a technical review as also high active, yeah, high tier? Do we consider feedback as also high tier enough to trigger that? What are yeah.
Hmm. Some sort of a feedback here. It's like right now for me, it's quite difficult to imagine if it's not done manually how that feedback can be sort of reviewed, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
sort of the value of the feedback, because I think it's super valuable, right? If somebody can come in and review either from the technical point of view or just even from, I mean, from economic point of view or any point of view, really, the proposal and provide that. I think it's of a high value, but it really depends on, yeah, like it's very mm, is it subjective? I don't really know. Like who should be judging that part there, right?
Right. We still have to, if we were to use this, we still have to see on how can this be implemented while not having a while not giving the DAO a high financial or governance overhead. Mhm. Okay, I think with that we can move on to the second question of that we said that we were going to tackle, which is how should compensation mix with the structure without draining the stables? So this relates with the treasury. This relates with our treasury and its current status. So for the question for the delegates that answer this, paying the consensus is that the treasury cannot currently support the stablecoin payouts. So summer is the preferred asset, but there is a split on mechanics where paying on locked summer, where in paying on locked summer, we have the risk of sell pressure, or paying in permanently locked summer, which would align with long term incentives. So the question for this discussion is: does paying in permanently locked summer ensure that we attract long term partners? Sorry. Oh, sorry, I apologize for that technical difficulty.
No worries at all. Next time if something pops up like this,
Yeah.
I can block the view.
Okay. So going back, going back to this, how should the delegate be ideally paid? Either in summer or in stable coins, should summer be locked or vested? Uh, so for the question here is, should does paying in permanently locked summer ensure that we attract the right long-term partners, or will this liquid pay prevent us from attracting professional grade talent? Based on the last conversation we had with this, uh, here, where summer where summer should be on. I think this is Jensei's answer, but summer should be unlocked treasury because since the treasury cannot support stablecoin payments right now, and that has to be locked to participate in governance, but this does say sell creates sell pressure on the token. Does anyone ever does anyone have any thoughts uh regarding whether or not summer should be locked or vested or be paid in summer or stable?
Um, I think personally, of course, ideally, delegates would be paid in stablecoins. I think maybe there is a way down the road to explore that. You know, there could be a tip stream maybe directed to for that purpose, like as a percentage of a revenue from the protocol. I think right now this wouldn't really create a meaningful contribution, but it's definitely something that I think would be great to explore. At the same time, I think therefore summer is more realistic here. Also, our treasury is heavily summer weighted. When it comes to locking or vesting components, it's a double-edged sword, right? Like, I think, of course, if it's vested or locked today, of course, this creates some sort of predictability of the sell pressure. I think in some DAOs, for example, from my experience or from my research, is that what I observed is that if you know in advance that delegates are being paid in tokens, then you can just simply track on chain which date the the rewards are being distributed, and then therefore like sort of track how it influences the price. And sometimes in some DAOs you can actually clearly see that, all right, people get paid in the governance token. All right, week after this is executed, and then you can see you can see the result on the price action. And yeah, so I guess I don't really know what's the solution to this. I just wanted to mention it. I think what's also maybe important here is to maybe talk about how is the value of summer defined, right? So what I mean by this is if we say, just as an example, right? If it's $100 worth of summer tokens, what price of summer are we using here? Is it like at the day of the proposal creation, that's the price that we take? Or is it sort of more of a weighted average over a month? Let's say excluding first 5 days and the last 5 days, so sort of like a middle 20 days of the month, those closing summer prices calculated and then averaged. I think that could be one way of trying to look at summer price and how this could be thought of. I guess if we say in fully unlocked summer, delegates have flexibility, of course. As I say, we kind of introduce this predictable monthly sell pressure. The governance becomes indirectly inflationary as well. I guess the locking or vesting here immediately reduces the immediate sell pressure. It also aligns the delegates with the governance V2 and the lock participation, which, you know, at the same time, it kind of contributes to this idea of getting paid in stable coins, right? As we know, if you lock summer tokens, there is a 20% of the protocol revenue being distributed to these lockers on monthly basis in USDC, actually in USDC that's already earning yield inside lower risk USDC vault on base. So maybe that's why I thought here that a staked summer is an interesting thing to explore here.
Right. I agree. If we were to give stable coins at this moment right now, it would have to be as a result of yield, uh, yield that has been created, and not necessarily from the treasury. Yes.
Just wanted to add a quick point. Rather than vesting, could be a stream where, like, something like I think it's Superfluid, where you stream the payment over like 30 days. So it's like you unlock the previous by the time the next month's distribution comes around, you have received the previous month. So it's like it sort of balances out this whole pressure in a way, because that is the primary concern. Obviously, like stable coins, like treasury stable coins would not be like paying delegates in treasury stable coins would not be the most effective use of the treasury given, current revenue projections.
This is very interesting, Brian. And actually, I really like this idea of streaming in general as a DeFi primitive. One thing here is that how again, like, how do you sort of define the? So I guess streaming would be possible only if we would denominate the delegate payment directly in Summer, right? Again, as an example, we say 100 Summer is a monthly reward for a delegate, and this is being streamed sort of on per second basis, right? I love that concept. It's just that, yeah, then it has to be strictly denominated on Summer, potentially changing the streams on monthly basis. But yeah, it could be an option here as well.
I agree. That's an interesting way to be able to disperse to the delegates.
And funnily enough, I haven't really seen delegate payments being streamed. I believe besides, yeah, no, I haven't really seen. I know of Superfluid, of course. As a disclosure, I'm also a delegate there. But also there is there are a couple other platforms that are doing streams. So maybe it's something to explore here, and yeah, we can see what could be the way.
Yeah, and Superfluid is available on base, so it would make slightly more sense than vesting.
And here, would you then suggest to sort of set the delegate rewards in Summer, like denominated in Summer?
Yeah, denominated Summer, and I guess the calculation could be, decided by a poll, whether it's like 7-day VWAP or spot price at the time of calculation. What, like, that's the only variable left. So I think that could be decided by a poll or something similar.
Right. All right. Thank you for that, Brian. So I guess in terms of payment, it should definitely be paid in Summer token and USDC or stable coins. Definitely something not sustainable right now. Streaming streaming the pain streaming the payments is definitely an option that we can consider. Mhm. And lastly, for our discussion, how do we calculate the base pay? Or better yet, let's talk about the structure on paying the delegates. I remember um, Brian was able to mention before on disbursing disbursing delegate funds on either having a monthly having it on a monthly tiered payment or a set budget, or he meant, or what I meant to say was a set quarterly budget wherein the the budget will be divided accordingly to the delegates who participated in for that quarter or for that month. Brian, do you mind expounding on that idea?
Yeah. This is namely from you guys did some research and you mentioned that um, the head count does continue to go up, and there's no like cap mechanism inside. There's no like mechanism to cap how much is paid out in delegate rewards, which is why I suggested setting some sort of budget. Maybe I think I gave an example of something like $3,000 per month or per quarter, whichever makes more sense. And then like this could be calculated in summer for the quarter, so maybe something like uh, you know 500,000 summer for let's say Q1, dedicated to dedicated to delegate rewards. And this could be split amongst delegates in any given month. But obviously, like a framework, this is just a suggestion. Like a more robust framework would have to be created around this. But yeah, the goal is to pretty much sort of have an idea how much is allocated to delegate rewards each quarter or each month. Obviously, this might need some cap on delegates, maybe I don't know, top 10 delegates or top 20 delegates. It could be scaled according to voting power, something along those lines. But yeah, just my thought. Obviously, it's not that simple, but the key idea is like having a fixed budget for delegate incentives rather than you just paying every single delegate who shows up.
I would like to add actually to this. I do agree. I think actually doing it quarterly, like a quarterly budget, would make more sense. So it doesn't also create too much strain on the process. Actually, just looking at let me share it also in the chat here real quick. I'm just looking at the Dune dashboards, and I'm looking at the previous, so the month of January, and the delegates results here, just to see sort of how many delegates are fitting within the last within the previous framework of the governance rewards, right? And I think because we set so there is a cap on it, right? Like you as a delegate, if you want to get rewarded, the cap at the moment is 10,000 summer. Right now at today's price, this is, I think, very little summer to even acquire and then participate in the governance, which is from one point of view great, right? Like we want to have more contributors, but at the same time it can it can create a strain on the treasury. So right now I believe this is 28 delegates that in the month of January had their balance above 10,000. summer tokens. Let's say if we would put this up to, if we would like 10x it, right? It would be 100,000 tokens, and that would bring this amount to 16 delegates, if I'm correct here. So just maybe important to look at and try to kind of like distinguish or create a cap for the bottom of how much voting power is needed for a delegate to be rewarded. I think this is going to be an important part as well. And again, something that is tightly correlated to the price of summer. So it has to be reviewed again, monthly, maybe too much. So maybe quarterly or something like this in relation to the budget as well.
Yeah, I actually agree with that idea as well. With the quarterly budget, since it's easier for us to, it's easier for the treasury as well as the computation and the allotment. Sorry. Mhm. So I guess we can say that we agree that quarterly a quarterly set budget for the delegate compensation is something that we can work with. Okay.
I saw some thumbs up flying around. So yeah, I think that's that seems to be the consensus, at least based on this call.
So I guess the baseline consent. So to summarize the baseline consensus on this call, it would be, as a standard, we are expecting 80 to 90% voting, some sort of, and as a standard, and some sort of contribution. And to be considered as high activity, it would be, yeah, it would be something more than participating, probably creating or identifying a risk or um a new yield source. In terms of payment structure, in terms of treasury, it would be on a quarterly. It'd be a quarterly budget. Mm, hmm. And as for the payment will be in summer, and we will be exploring streaming the payments. And sorry, and last, oh sorry, this was already identified in the beginning, but for defining the success metrics of this program would be the proposals are hit consistently in a quorum and new yield sources are proposed by the delegates. In terms of KPIs, can we identify when should we have a review for these to define the success of the program? Are we going to review the success in a span of 3 months, 6 months, or maybe a year?
I think quarterly, like if we're gonna go with a quarterly budget, I think
Payments.
yeah,
Right.
that makes sense. To review the KPIs, like each time we enter a new quarter. Yeah, I think that makes sense. The proposals consistently hitting quorum. I think that is one that is already true. Yeah, so it's mostly like incentivizing other activities.
Mm.
Yeah, I agree here as well with Brian. I think if we want to look at the KPIs, I think quarterly here makes sense, and maybe we could look across, like, I don't know, maybe like 3-4 different dimensions here. I guess an important one here would be like a governance stability, of course, here. So was the quorum consistency? Did we have, sort of any failed proposals due to absence, or is it too easy to reach the quorum? Like, what's the quorum coefficient here? Percentage of votes with how many active delegates are participating? Sort of reduced concentration of voting power here. I guess really looking at the Nakamoto coefficient here. So can we? How many individual delegates does it take to reach the quorum? And did we have any stalls due to inactivity? Maybe a second dimension would be sort of more looking at the quality here, as we discussed. So a percentage of the SIPs receiving substantive forum discussion. Number of delegates providing their thoughts or like the written rationale in the forum. Number of proposals meaningfully revised after delegate feedback, risk or treasury issues surfaced, pre-vote. These I think all contribute to the quality here. Let me see, maybe then focusing more on the decentralization and the delegate growth. So some of the KPIs here, increase in active recognized delegates. Did we have an increase? Did we have a decrease here? Growth in delegated voting power distribution. I think this is also important. And how are these shifts being represented? So when we look back on the quarterly basis, then we could judge how the growth and how the changes were shaped in the voting power distribution. Maybe an amount of new delegates crossing participation thresholds, because then this is important. As I said before, right now the threshold is 10,000 summer. Whatever the threshold in V2 would be, we can then track on a quarterly basis again how many new delegates has crossed this threshold. And treasury sustainability, 100% here. So I think, here we should definitely track the monthly or quarterly, as we discussed before, quarterly cost as a part of the treasury. We can also sort of look at the summer sell pressure here, and maybe correlation between the governance complexity and the compensation outflow. And this may be a bit more difficult to figure out, but looking at the governance cost relative to the vault growth here, because to be strongly aligned, I think it's going to be important to look at the governance output against the growth of the vaults. I guess really the difficult part here will be to figure out the part of the framework that's looking at the activity of delegates. As already pointed out before, I think by Master Module and by Raphael, some of the best governance is a quieter one, the one that's less noisy, let's say, but still being active and constructive here. So I guess judging the forum tone, this is also something that actually could be accessed as a metric in the discourse that we have, that we are using for the forum. So we can check the forum tone and the emotional basis of those comments. I don't know. These are just like sort of off the top of my head thoughts on the KPIs here. But definitely see a point in making a quarterly review and evaluating the participation metrics, and maybe adjusting the tier the tiered thresholds if needed, of course. Reviewing the budget cap. Yeah, I think maybe it could be split into these like quarterly reviews and maybe biannual, like more structural reviews here. So again, we can then, after 2 quarters, we can reassess the program design, reevaluate the payout structure, maybe adjust the decentralization incentives, because that could be also something to look at. Of course, if we are not increasing the Nakamoto coefficient of how many delegates it takes to reach the quorum, then maybe there are ways how to incentivize for that to increase or to grow into the future. Yeah, I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on this.
Yeah, I just wanted to add something I think is very important. The separation between voting, like on-chain voting, and like forum activity. I think we should make a big point in separating those two. I think there should be like delegate incentives for just voting, because it is completely independent of like forum activity. Obviously, we have some large delegates who are currently essential for quorum, and I think that activity should be rewarded separately. So my suggestion is more like having a pool of rewards for literally just addresses that vote, and then we can have a separate pool, a smaller pool for forum activity, where we use something like the PRS score. So this way, there's two, there's both are valuable, but they are not connected, right? It's valuable for like the whales to vote, but there's no additional value in them like also having forum activities. So I think we should have like different categories for delegate rewards. One for obviously just voting. So, like whales can come in and just vote and get rewards. And then like a separate tier for people who are more interested in contributing on the forum, right? Where we can like more liberally use something like the PRS system, where, we can cap it at like 3 or 5 top scorers who receive, a reward each month for like ranking highly on the PRS. Something like, number 1 gets like 100, 2 75, 3 50, where it's like it's it is you get like sort of recognition for participating in the forum, as well as some type of reward, while also not limiting, like people with like whales pretty much, well, not forcing them to interact with the forum if they don't want to, or if, like making it a requirement to earn rewards by sort of combining the on-chain voting and like forum activity, because, they are honestly, like in my opinion, like independent variables, and they do not need to be grouped into one.
This is a really nice point. I don't know, Catherine, if you have some thoughts on this, but yeah, I do agree on this. I think it's quite a thin ice though to sort of skate on here, right? Like to figure out this ratio. I definitely see a point in what you are saying, like, but we also need to make sure that we don't overweigh voting, or we don't overweigh the forum activity, right? Like, I guess if we overweight the voting, we get like mechanical participation, and that's also not ideal. But at the same time, if we overweight the forum activity, we might risk like these like performative postings, which are also not adding much. But I think making a split between the two makes sense, and maybe also that's as you said, there's a way how to utilize this PRS score to really focus on the forum activity here. Yeah, what are your thoughts, Katrin, here?
Actually, I like that. I like that idea, and building on top of that, it makes me think that what if we have, instead of having complicating it and having 3 tiers, we just have 2 tiers. Like the first tier is a standard base tier. So what we expect of the delegates, and like for the big whales that Brian was saying. So maybe their threshold couldn't be just voting, or that can, yeah, then the standard can just be voting, or that can be the baseline. And then the higher tier, or where you would get rewards, or the boosts, would come from other activities. Mm. Yeah, from the other activities, like the proposals, what do you call this, co-authoring a proposal, or finding the yields. Yeah, but it's a delicate balance. Also. Mhm.
Yeah, maybe there could be these tiers as well. Yeah, as you said, like sort of the different ways how to contribute, right? As I was also implying before, like not everybody is or wants or is even or knows how to knows how to sort of contribute with a new arc or a new strategy to be deployed. But yeah, there could have other valuable insights. So maybe there
How
could
about,
be different tiers there. Yeah.
mhm. Sorry, I have one more follow-up question. What if in terms of percentage, how many percent do should we count voting? Maybe to think of a baseline formula, like maybe voting should be voting should be 30%, and 70% should be other forms of engagement, or etc. Or yeah, or
Uh,
maybe the other way around. Sorry, yeah,
my,
Brian.
yeah, my thinking was like voting is the most valuable, if we're being honest, activity in terms of governance, because if, as we know, it's like if I think if it's 3 or 4 delegates don't vote, we don't reach quorum and we don't get anything done. So I think it should be overweighted, even with a lack of like rationale, and just because it's sort of like uh, it's like one of the key operational things that keeps the protocol running, right? We need that governance power to get like ARCs approved, payments approved, like a bunch of different things. So I think it's fair to give a pretty big weighting to just voting. We could, as I said, my suggestion on the quarterly budget could be like limited to, as maybe 10 delegates with the most voting power, and then like proportionally weighted in that way, where it's like you know let's say those 10 delegates, one of them has like 30% of the total voting power, they would get like 30% of the rewards, and so forth, proportional in that way. And then you just have like an independent award for delegates with, PRS with like the highest PRS scores in a given month or something, So this way it's like you can reward like whales for governance stability, and you can reward like smaller delegates for engagement, without having to, force one or the other to, without having to force smaller delegates to have to acquire large amounts of voting power, while at the same time, not having to force whales to, interact like in like engagement activities, but also making it possible for both of them to do both at the same time.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for that, Brian. I think I agree with that definitely. Leveraging the PRS scores would be of benefit here to the lazy summer protocol. If yeah, and just to let everyone know, Curia will be running an independent experiment in the next 6 months when we start together with the start of the new iteration of of the delegate incentive framework. After we'll see if it is true that if the PRS hypothesis is true, where we will be able to correctly identify who contributes the most value to in the forums. Yeah.
That's great. That's awesome to hear.
Okay, and I guess that finishes and that wraps up our workshop for today. Thank you everyone for the information that you shared. The delegate incentive working group will use all of these information that we talked about today in creating a base structure. Hopefully we will be able to uh, create create a draft by next week so that we can present this more formed version of the framework.
That's awesome. I'm really looking forward to that. I think, yeah, once it's more like sort of structured, we can bring it up as an RFC to the forum, then sort of continue on some of the adjustments, or depending, of course, on the feedback from the delegate, and then move it forward to the first sort of launch of the V2 framework, and see where that takes us on our road. Yeah, if there are no other questions or anything connected to this structure, I would like to first thank everyone who stayed engaged through what was, in my opinion, very substantive session. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much again, Catherine. Thank you so much, Brian, for giving your thoughts here, and Catherine for leading the discussion here. It seems like we are really focused on the structure here, right? Like, not we have started by revisiting, just to do again a short closing thoughts recap here. We revisited the DAO-Managed Vault architecture, the risk segmentation, the active SIP load, and then we did the harder thing, right? Like, we examined ourselves. I think because as Lazy Summer DAO grows in complexity, the governance cannot remain informal. Risk frameworks are becoming more sophisticated, which I'm super happy. I'm very glad for Block Analytica and their contribution to creating the risk framework for the DAO risk managed vaults. The vault strategies are expanding. The treasury decisions are becoming more consequential. If the governance infrastructure doesn't mature alongside that, the fragility builds quietly. And I think this is why the discussion around the Delegate Rewards V2 matters a lot, and it's really quite of an essence here. It's really about protecting the quorum stability, elevating the contributions quality, strengthening decentralization, and aligning incentives with long-term protocol health. I think we are really, what we are trying to do here is creating something that is sustainable, that is aligned with the protocol values, and is resistant to gaming. Maybe this is not something that we touched upon too much, but I think it's important to consider in shaping the V2 here of the delegate rewards. We cannot be overly generous. We cannot be overly restrictive either, but we need to be structurally sound, and I think that's important. It's of a great essence also to remember that this is a later summer DAO process. Nothing here is imposed, and I'm really enjoying the debates that we are having on these calls, and that we are building this structure collectively. If you are recognized delegates, I think this is the moment to lean in. If you are part of the working group, refine, simplify, pressure test. If you are observing and you're a community member, this is where governance culture is defined. So do participate. Frameworks created now, I think, are going to shape the participation in the coming months from now on. They will shape the decentralization metrics, and they will shape how resilient we are when market conditions tighten. Yeah, let's keep the discussion thoughtful and disciplined here. Please continue contributing on the forum, add to the Miro board. Again, thank you so much, Catherine, for facilitating that. Let's keep stress testing the assumptions, challenge the trade-offs constructively. And yeah, as you said, Kat, let's consolidate the feedback, iterate towards a cleaner draft of V2 framework, and continue moving it onto an RFC onto the forum to take further sort of async discussion there. Governance is infrastructure, and infrastructure decisions compound. And it's important to keep that in mind as well. So thank you all. Appreciate all the time and the seriousness everyone brought to this. See you on the next call, and before that, see you on the forum. And do remember to check the tally at gov.summer.fi, where there are new proposals opening for voting very soon. Thank you, everyone, and have a nice rest of the day and a lovely weekend ahead.
Thanks, Jensei. Thanks, Catherine. See you guys next week.